There are dozens of ways to make a vegan cream sauce. I've been experimenting a lot lately with a cauliflower cream sauce, and I think I've nailed it. Today I'm going to show you how to make an amazing cauliflower cashew Alfredo style sauce with sun-dried tomatoes. And in the end, you're going to wind up with this beautiful dish. So the first thing you want to do is bring a pot of water to a boil. This can work on in the background while you prepare the rest of the ingredients. Whenever you're making pasta, you want to salt the water pretty thoroughly. This is your only chance to be able to season your pasta. And then to help the water come to a boil a little bit faster, you want to cover it with a lid. Next, you want to start to toast your nuts for your pesto pine nut parm. I'm adding a 1/4 cup of pine nuts, 1/4 cup of walnuts, and a 1/4 cup of cashews. I'm just going to stir these around a pan, toss them around a bit. You want them to get slightly brown but not burnt. Do not walk away. When they start to smell fragrant and get little brown bits on some of the edges, you know it's done, and you want to set it aside and let it cool. So I'm not going to add any fake meat or anything to this pasta dish, but I am going to saute some mushrooms and onions just to add a little bit more body to the pasta. So I've added a couple tablespoons of olive oil, container of previously chopped mushrooms just to make everything easier, and just about a 1/2 cup of chopped onion, topping that off with some garlic powder and a little bit of salt. Just tossing them around so that they're nice and even on the bottom, adding a little bit of black pepper as well here. You want to let the mushrooms and the onions kind of sit in the pan without moving around too much. You want them to get nice and caramelized and brown on the bottom before you start to stir them around. Once they get some color, start to move them, and again, just let them sit and get brown on the other side. After about 10 minutes or so, you'll notice the mushrooms and the onions have reduced quite a bit. They're a beautiful golden brown. Taste one. If it tastes delicious, it's time to remove them from the pan and set them aside until your pasta's done. Next, it's time to make the pesto parm. So in a food processor, you want to add your toasted nuts, 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Now, because this is supposed to be a vegan parm, this is what gives it the cheesy flavor. A 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now, I've dried my own basil, but you can use any other canned dried basil here. I'm adding just about 1 tablespoon of this dried basil. Again, remember this is supposed to be a pesto parm, so you're gonna get that pesto flavor from that dried basil. And because I love heat, I'm adding just a bit of red chili flake. You wanna pulse all the ingredients together in the food processor until you get a nice grainy texture. Think the green shake container of Parmesan cheese. That's the texture you're looking for. This parm recipe makes quite a bit, so I'm just adding all mine to a jar here so I can use it in pretty much anything I want a cheesy topping on. So the last and easiest thing we want to make is the actual Alfredo sauce. I'm starting out by chopping up an onion. You're going to need about a 1/4 cup of chopped onion for this. I'm adding about 4 cloves of garlic, just roughly breaking them apart so I can get the peel off. You don't really need to chop it right now for this recipe. To make my life easier, I've laid out all the ingredients for this, but it comes together really quick. All these ingredients are going to get dumped into the Instant Pot and cooked together at the same time. If you don't have an Instant Pot, you can do this just on a regular stovetop. Just might take about 10 to 15 minutes to get all the ingredients cooked together, whereas the Instant Pot, it does go a little bit faster. To the pot, I'm adding 2 cups of frozen cauliflower, that 1/4 cup of chopped onion, 1/2 cup of cashews, nutritional yeast, Italian seasoning, and a bit of red pepper flake, 1 cup of water, and then a teaspoon of Better Than Bouillon no chicken flavor. Instead of the water or the bouillon, you could just use a highly flavored stock. That would work just as well. Toss the ingredients together just to make sure they're combined. Pop the lid on and go ahead and set the timer for exactly 4 minutes. By this point, my water has come to a boil and I'm adding my bow tie pasta. Stir that together so that nothing sticks to the bottom and set the timer according to the package directions. I'm using this cook time to chop up some fresh basil so that I can garnish the top of our pasta dish. By this point, while the pasta and sauce are still cooking, I have my parm done, I have my sauteed mushrooms and onions, my basil is chopped, I have fresh black pepper to go on top, and about a 1/2 cup of sun-dried tomatoes, which are going to be added to the sauce at the very end. When the time is up, you want to quick release the pressure And as soon as you can open up the lid, go ahead and pour all of the ingredients into a high-speed blender. Now, it's important to have a high-speed blender here in order to get the velvety consistency. A slower speed blender might eventually give you the same texture, but it could take quite a while. You want to be really careful when blending hot ingredients like this. Start it out low and slow, making sure the lid is on, and gradually bring it up to high. Let this blend for about a minute until it's nice and creamy. Now it's time to add your sun-dried tomatoes. If they are packed in oil like mine, avoid getting any extra oil in there. And then lightly stir it together. Mine are pre-chopped, so I don't want to break them down any further. When your pasta is done, drain it, and it's time to assemble. I'm just going to prepare one portion right now. A pound of pasta will give you about 4 portions. Add the mushrooms and onions and stir those together with the pasta. Add a generous helping of your sun-dried tomato Alfredo sauce and toss it all together so everything becomes nice and incorporated. Now I'm doing this in a bowl on the side, not my actual serving bowl, just helps with presentation. So I'm adding my tossed pasta to the serving bowl, topping it with some fresh basil, and then I'm gonna add a ton of my homemade pesto parm. This is tons of flavor here, so don't be shy. And to finish it all off, I'm adding some fresh cracked black pepper. And there it is, creamy cauliflower and sun-dried tomato Alfredo pasta, covered in a delicious pesto pine nut parm and fresh basil. Now that you've seen how easy it is to make, let's give it a taste. It's a perfect Alfredo sauce. That cauliflower completely disappears and all you're left with is cream. Sweetness of the sun-dried tomatoes, the earthiness of the onions and the mushrooms, of course the brightness of the fresh basil on top, not to mention that amazing dry pesto seasoning on top. Tastes just like a Parmesan cheese with an extra little kick. You're really gonna love this. Give it a try. Even if you don't have an Instant Pot, you're still gonna be able to make this. So enjoy.